The laughter drifted through the hallway like smoke, soft, warm, unfamiliar. Amara Zara Bello hadn't heard her husband laugh in 3 years of marriage. Not like this. Not this freely. Her fingers trembled against the cold brass handle of his private office door. She pushed it open. Inside, Kwon Tae-hyuk sat on the leather couch, his large hand gently wrapped around a woman's delicate fingers. A little girl, no older than 4, stood between his knees, her small palms pressed against his face. The child smiled brightly and whispered, "Daddy, are we going home now?" The room fell silent. Their eyes met. And in that single heartbeat, Zara watched her entire world shatter without a single word being spoken. Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't caused by what someone says, but by what they never explained. Please like, share, and subscribe. The winter air bit through Seoul steel and glass towers, but inside the Kwon estate, warmth had never truly existed. Zara stood frozen in that doorway for exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds that would destroy 5 years of her life. Tae-hyuk's expression shifted. Something she had never seen before flickered across his controlled features. Not guilt. Something deeper. Something like fear. Zara. But she was already stepping backward. The woman on the couch rose quickly, her face pale with confusion. She was beautiful, elegant in a way that made Zara's chest ache. Her hand remained suspended in the air where Tae-hyuk's grip had released. "Chairman Kwon, should I leave?" His voice was ice. "Take Soo-min to the car." The woman gathered the child quickly, casting one uncertain glance at Zara before disappearing through a side door. The little girl's voice echoed down the hallway, "Daddy, when are you coming?" "Daddy." The word carved itself into Zara's heart like a blade. Tae-hyuk stood slowly, his tall frame casting shadows across the Persian rug. The Korean-African symbolic tattoo on his neck, the one he'd gotten the day they married, blending her heritage with his, seemed to pulse under the dim lighting. "Let me explain. How old is she?" Zara's voice was barely a whisper. "Zara, this isn't." "How old?" His jaw tightened. 4. 4 years old. They had been married for 3. The mathematics of betrayal was simple, devastating, complete. "I see." She turned away, her posture straight despite the earthquake inside her chest. "I understand now." "You don't." He moved toward her, and for the first time in their marriage, she stepped away from his approach. "Zara, please. Don't." One word. It stopped the most powerful man in East Asia's underground empire dead in his tracks. She walked out of that room, down the marble corridor, past the servants who pretended not to see her tears, and into the bedroom they had shared for 3 years. By morning, Zara Bello had vanished. She left behind her jewelry, her designer clothes, and the life she had built as the wife of the Black Dragon of Seoul. She took only 2 things. Her grandmother's wedding ring, and the secret growing inside her womb. For 3 months, Tae-hyuk turned Seoul inside out. His men searched every airport, every train station, every safe house connected to anyone who had ever known her name. He called in favors from Yakuza bosses in Tokyo, triad leaders in Hong Kong, cartel contacts in South America. Nothing. She had disappeared completely, as if she had never existed at all. His right-hand man, Director Kong, stood in the doorway of the study, watching his chairman stare at surveillance footage for the 100th time. "Sir, it's been 12 weeks. I'm aware. The board is asking questions. The Park Syndicate is making moves on our shipping routes. We need find her." Tae-hyuk's voice was deadly quiet. The tattoo on his wrist, visible beneath his rolled sleeve, seemed to darken with his mood. "I don't care what it costs. I don't care who you have to destroy. Find my wife." Director Kong hesitated. "Chairman, perhaps she doesn't want to be found." The silence that followed was more terrifying than any threat. Tae-hyuk turned slowly, his dark eyes empty of everything except controlled fury. "She is mine. She has always been mine. And she will remain mine until I take my last breath." His fingers curled against the desk. "Now get out." But months turned into years. And the Black Dragon of Seoul learned something his power had never taught him. Some people couldn't be found because they had learned to become ghosts. The bakery sat at the edge of Bukchon Hanok village, tucked between traditional wooden houses and narrow cobblestone paths. A hand-painted sign hung above the door, asterisk, warmth and crumbs. Asterisk. Inside, the scent of fresh bread mingled with cinnamon and brown butter. Wooden shelves displayed pastries that blended African spices with Korean techniques. Coke Sisters glazed with yuzu, mandatsi dusted with matcha, sweet potato bread swirled with black sesame. Zara stood behind the counter, her natural curls pulled back with a silk scarf, flour dusting her apron. At 27, she had grown into a quieter version of herself, softer around the edges, but with steel beneath the surface. Iyama! Iyama! Two small boys burst through the kitchen door, their identical faces flushed with excitement. "We finished cleaning," the first one announced proudly. His name was Dae-young, the older twin by 4 minutes. His brother, Dae-ho, nodded enthusiastically behind him. Zara smiled, the expression reaching her eyes in a way it only did for them. "Did you wash your hands?" They held up their palms for inspection, and she laughed, a sound like wind chimes on a summer morning. "Perfect. Now, who wants to help with the afternoon deliveries?" Both hands shot up. Watching them, no one could deny what they were. The sharp jawlines. The intense dark eyes. The way they studied people before speaking, calculating, observing, knowing. They were miniature versions of Kwon Tae-hyuk. Zara had spent 5 years building walls around her heart. She had created a new life, a new identity, a new purpose. But every time she looked at her sons, she saw him. And the wound that had never fully healed would begin bleeding all over again. The afternoon crowd had thinned when the black sedan appeared. Zara didn't notice it at first. She was too busy arranging a display of honeycakes while Dae-young and Dae-ho played quietly in the corner with wooden blocks. The bell above the door chimed. "Welcome to Warmth and Crumbs," she said without looking up. "Today's special is our cardamom rose bread, freshly." Her words died. Kwon Tae-hyuk stood in the doorway of her small bakery, his presence swallowing all the warmth from the room. He hadn't changed. Same sharp jaw. Same piercing eyes that could read lies written in someone's heartbeat. Same devastating control that made the air feel thin. His black suit was tailored perfectly, and at his collar, just visible beneath the white shirt, the Korean-African tattoo remained. The symbol of their union. The mark he had never removed. His eyes fixed on her face with an intensity that stole her breath. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Behind her, Dae-young's voice broke the silence. "Iyama? Who is that man?" Tae-hyuk's gaze shifted. And for the first time in 5 years, Zara watched the black dragon of Seoul lose control of his expression. His eyes traveled from one boy to the other, identical faces, identical eyes, identical features that mirrored his own with devastating precision. The wooden block in Dae-ho's hand dropped to the floor with a soft clatter. Both boys stared back at him with the same unreadable intensity. Studying him. The way he studied everyone. Tae-hyuk's chest stopped moving. His hands, those powerful hands that had signed death warrants and peace treaties with equal ease, began to tremble. "Zara." His voice was barely a rasp. What have you done?" The kitchen door swung shut behind them, separating them from the boys who sat confused at the counter with cookies Zara had placed before them. Tae-hyuk's composure had returned, mostly. But his eyes remained wild, darting toward the door every few seconds. "They're mine." It wasn't a question. "They're mine." Zara's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. "You took my children from me. You took everything from me first." The words hung between them like smoke. Tae-hyuk stepped closer, and she could smell him. Cedar, leather, and something darker that had always reminded her of thunderstorms over the Han River. "I searched for you." His voice dropped to something almost vulnerable. "For 3 years, I tore apart every corner of this continent looking for you. And yet here I was." She gestured at the humble kitchen. "Hiding in plain sight while you were busy with your real family." His expression fractured. "What family?" "The little girl. The woman." "Daddy, are we going home now?" She mimicked the child's voice, and the wound it opened was visible on his face. "I saw everything, Tae-hyuk. I saw her." "You saw nothing." His hand shot out, catching her wrist, not roughly, but firmly. The tattoo on his fingers pressed against her pulse. You saw the surface of a truth you never allowed me to explain. What explanation could possibly? She wasn't mine. Zara stilled. Sumin was never my biological child. His grip tightened slightly, desperately. She was the daughter of a man who saved my life 10 years before we met. He was dying. His wife was dying. They had no one else. His jaw worked with suppressed emotion. I made a vow. I told him I would protect his daughter until she was old enough to know the truth. I gave her a home. I kept her safe. And I kept her secret, because revealing her existence would have made her a target for everyone who wanted to destroy me. Zara's heart stuttered. Then why, the woman? Her caretaker. Her nanny. A widow I employed to give Sumin a maternal figure because... His voice broke, just slightly. Because my own wife was too precious to involve in that world. Because I wanted to protect you from the dangers that surrounded her. The kitchen felt too small. Zara's chest felt too tight. You could have told me. I was going to. His thumb traced circles against her wrist, a gesture so familiar it made her ache. That night, I had finally decided you deserved to know everything. And then you walked through that door, and you looked at me like I was a stranger, and you were gone before I could speak. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You expect me to believe this? I expect nothing. His dark eyes held hers. I lost the right to expect anything from you 5 years ago. But those boys... His voice roughened. Those boys carry my blood, my face, my legacy, and I will not lose them too. The news of the Black Dragon's discovery spread through Seoul's underground like wildfire. Within 48 hours, the wrong people knew exactly what Kwon Tae-hyuk had found in that small bakery. And they began to plan. Park Jae-won, leader of the rival Park syndicate, sat in his penthouse office, photographs spread across his mahogany desk. 2 small boys. Identical. Undeniably Kwon blood. Interesting. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The dragon has been hiding cubs. His lieutenant shifted uncomfortably. Sir, if we target children, we target leverage. Park's finger tapped against one photograph. The woman is irrelevant. But those boys are worth more than every shipping contract in Asia. He leaned back in his chair. Find out everything about that bakery. And prepare a team. We move within the week. Tae-hyuk returned to the bakery every day. Not inside, Zara had made that boundary clear. But outside, a black sedan sat parked across the street from morning until close. Armed guards rotated in 12-hour shifts. Surveillance equipment appeared on nearby rooftops. Zara wanted to hate it. But every night, when she locked the doors and walked her sons home through the narrow streets, she felt those invisible eyes watching. Protecting. Waiting. The twins noticed too. Iyama, Dae-young said one evening, that car has been there all week. I know, baby. Are they bad people? Zara hesitated. No. They're watching over us. Why? Because your father is the most powerful criminal in East Asia, she didn't say. Because I ran from him with you growing in my belly, and now he's found us, and he will never let go again. Because some people care more than they know how to say. Dae-ho tilted his head, so like his father that Zara's breath caught. Is it the tall man? The one from the bakery? Yes. He looked sad. Dae-ho's voice was matter-of-fact. When he saw us, he looked like he wanted to cry but forgot how. Zara pulled them closer. She didn't trust herself to respond. His name was Daniel Mensah, a Ghanaian architect who had moved to Seoul 3 years ago to design sustainable housing projects. He was kind, patient, warm in all the ways Tae-hyuk was cold. And he had been slowly, carefully falling in love with Zara since the day he'd wandered into her bakery looking for directions. You seem distracted today. Daniel's voice was gentle as he helped her arrange chairs after closing. Just tired. The car outside isn't helping, I imagine. His gaze flickered toward the window where the black sedan waited. Zara stiffened. You noticed. Hard not to. He set down the last chair and turned to face her. Zara, Is there something I should know? Someone I should be concerned about? It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it for me. He stepped closer, not threatening, never threatening. Just present. I care about you. About the boys. If someone is causing you trouble. He's not causing trouble. Then what is he causing? She had no answer. Outside, Taehyuk watched through tinted glass as the man touched Zara's shoulder. His jaw tightened. The tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse. Sir. Director Kang's voice came through the earpiece. We've completed the background check on Daniel Mensah. He's clean. No criminal connections. No. I don't care if he's a saint. Taehyuk's voice was terrifyingly calm. I want him followed. Every meeting documented. Every conversation recorded. Sir. He's just an architect. He touched my wife. Silence. Understood, sir. The attack came at dusk. Zara was closing the bakery when the side door shattered inward. 3 men in black masks flooded the space, their movements military precise. She screamed, once, before a hand clamped over her mouth. Don't struggle, a voice hissed. We're not here for you. We want the boys. The boys. Her sons. Something ancient and primal ignited in Zara's chest. She bit down, hard, and drove her elbow backward with force her grandmother had taught her in their Lagos compound 30 years ago. The man grunted, his grip loosening. Upstairs! She screamed toward the residence above the bakery. Hide! 2 sets of small feet scrambled. But one attacker was already moving toward the stairs. And then, glass exploded. Taehyuk came through the front window like a force of nature, his suit jacket abandoned, blood already streaming from cuts on his forearms. He moved without hesitation. The first attacker fell with a precise strike to the throat. The second barely had time to turn before a knee shattered his ribs. The third, the one reaching for the staircase, died looking into eyes that held no mercy whatsoever. The violence took 11 seconds. And then there was only silence, broken glass, and Taehyuk standing in the wreckage like a god of destruction made flesh. His chest heaved. Blood dripped from his hands. The tattoo on his collarbone was visible through his torn shirt, stark and brutal against his skin. Zara. His voice was raw. The boys. She ran upstairs without a word. They were huddled in the closet, exactly where she had taught them to hide. Shaking but unharmed. When she carried them back downstairs, Taehyuk was on his phone, issuing commands in rapid Korean. Bodies were already being removed. Glass was being swept. His eyes found hers. This ends tonight. The estate was outside Seoul, a fortress hidden in the mountains that Zara had never known existed. The twins sat between them in the back of the armored vehicle, their small hands clutching hers. Are we safe now, Iyama? Dae-young whispered. Before she could answer, Taehyuk spoke. No one will ever touch you again. His voice carried the weight of an absolute promise. Not while I breathe. The boys looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Are you our appa? Dae-ho asked, using the Korean word for father. The question hung in the air. Taehyuk's throat worked. Yes. The word came out broken. I am your father. Neither boy moved. Then, slowly, Dae-ho reached out and touched the tattoo visible on Taehyuk's wrist. Does this hurt? No. Why do you have it? Because. He glanced at Zara, his eyes holding 5 years of grief. Because I loved your mother so much I wanted to carry her heritage on my skin. Forever. Dae-young studied his face. Then why did Iyama leave? Because I made a mistake. His voice was unbearably honest. I kept a secret I thought would protect her. But secrets only hurt the people we love most. The twins looked at each other, that silent communication only they understood. Then Dae-young nodded slowly. Iyama says everyone deserves a second chance. Taehyuk's breath caught. Does she? Both boys looked at their mother. Zara felt tears burning. She said nothing. But she didn't pull away when Taehyuk's hand covered hers in the darkness. 3 nights later, the Park Syndicate compound burned. Taehyuk returned at dawn, his clothes smelling of smoke and vengeance. He found Zara waiting in the estate's library, her wedding ring, her grandmother's ring, turning slowly in her fingers. "Is it finished?" she asked without looking up. "Yes." "How many?" "Enough." She finally met his eyes. "You killed them. For me. For the boys. I would burn the entire world for your family." His voice held no remorse. "I thought you knew that when you married me. I didn't know anything about you." The words weren't accusatory, just honest. "You kept so many secrets. Sumin. Your business. The people you've destroyed. I married a mask, Taehyuk." He crossed the room slowly, lowering himself into the chair across from her. "Then let me show you the man beneath it." For hours, he spoke. He told her about his father, a dock worker who had been murdered by a rival gang when Taehyuk was 16. About his mother's grief that killed her 2 years later. About the rage that had driven him to build an empire from the ashes of his family's poverty. He told her about the night he'd killed his first man, a trafficker who specialized in children. About the nightmares that still haunted him. He told her about Sumin's father, who had taken a bullet meant for Taehyuk in a warehouse in Busan. About the promise he'd made as the man bled out in his arms. "She's 17 now," Taehyuk said quietly. "In university in London. Safe. Happy. She knows everything, who her parents were, what I am, why I did what I did. She sends me letters every month." Zara's eyes were wet. "Why didn't you just tell me?" "Because I was afraid." The admission seemed to cost him everything. "Afraid that if you saw the darkness inside me, the blood, the violence, the bodies I've left behind, you would stop looking at me the way you used to." His voice fractured. "You were the only light I had, Zara. And I destroyed it by trying to protect you from shadows." She stood abruptly, moving toward the window where dawn was painting the mountains gold. 5 years. Her voice shook. "I raised our sons alone. I worked 18-hour days. I cried myself to sleep wondering if everything we had was a lie. It wasn't." He was behind her suddenly, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Not a single moment of what we had was a lie. Then why does it still hurt so much?" His hand hovered near her shoulder. "Because healing takes longer than breaking." She turned. They were inches apart. His dark eyes held hers with devastating tenderness. "Let me earn it back," he whispered. "However long it takes. Whatever you need. Let me prove that the man who loved you never stopped. Not for a single day." Zara's tears finally fell. "I still wear your ring." Her voice broke. "Every day. I couldn't bring myself to remove it." His breath caught. Slowly, so slowly, he reached out and cupped her face with hands that had killed for her. Protected for her. Trembled only for her. Zara. Her name was a prayer on his lips. "My light. My heart. My home." She closed the distance. The kiss wasn't passion, not yet. It was healing. Forgiveness. 5 years of silence finally finding its voice. When they pulled apart, both were crying. The scene fades to black. Weeks passed. Taehyuk moved slowly, respecting boundaries Zara established with quiet firmness. He slept in a separate wing of the estate. He asked permission before spending time with the twins. He brought her coffee every morning and left flowers on her pillow without expecting anything in return. But the boys were less cautious. They began following him like shadows, watching how he moved, how he spoke, how he commanded rooms full of powerful men with nothing but silence. "Appa." Dae-young tested the word one evening at dinner. "Can you teach us to fight like you?" Taehyuk's chopsticks paused. He looked at Zara, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "No." His voice was gentle. "But I can teach you something better." "What?" "How to protect the people you love without becoming monsters in the process." The twins considered this seriously. "Okay," Dae-ho agreed. "That sounds important." But shadows from the past weren't finished. Daniel Mensah appeared at the estate gates 2 days later, demanding to see Zara. Taehyuk watched from the window as his wife walked down the driveway to speak with him. His fists clenched. The tattoo on his neck seemed to darken. But he didn't interfere. Below, Zara's conversation was brief but honest. "I'm sorry, Daniel. Truly. But my heart was never available. Not really. You still love him." It wasn't a question. I never stopped. Daniel nodded slowly, pain flickering across his kind features. "Then I hope he deserves you. He's trying to. Make sure he never stops." Daniel stepped back toward his car. "You deserve someone who fights for you, Zara. Every single day." She watched him drive away. When she turned back toward the estate, Taehyuk stood in the doorway, waiting, saying nothing. She walked to him, and for the first time since the bakery, she took his hand willingly. The storm came without warning. They had been walking the estate grounds, just the two of them while the twins napped inside, when the sky opened. Within seconds, they were soaked. Taehyuk pulled her under a garden pavilion, his body shielding her from the worst of the downpour. Rain plastered his hair to his forehead, streaming down the sharp lines of his face. "You're freezing," he murmured, pulling off his jacket to wrap around her shoulders. "I'm fine." "You're shivering." "That's not from cold." Their eyes met. 5 years of pain crystallized between them. "I dreamed about you." His voice was barely audible above the rain. "Every night. Sometimes I would wake up reaching for you, and the empty space beside me felt like a grave. I dreamed about you too." Her admission was raw. "I hated myself for it. I hated myself for letting you go." His forehead pressed against hers. "For not chasing you that night. For not breaking down every door in Seoul until I found you." "Why didn't you?" "Because part of me believed I deserved to lose you. That someone like me wasn't meant to keep someone like you." The rain fell harder. "You're not a monster, Taehyuk." Her hands rose to frame his face, that sharp jaw, those devastating eyes. "Monsters don't cry when they find their sons. Monsters don't spend 5 years searching for a woman they believe abandoned them." "I'm not a good man." "No." She smiled through her tears. "But you're my man. You always were." He kissed her, desperately, achingly, with 5 years of hunger barely contained. The rain washed away everything. When they finally pulled apart, gasping, the storm had gentled to a soft mist. "Come home," he whispered against her lips. "Really home. You and the boys. Let me give you everything I should have given you from the start." "What's that?" "The truth. All of it. Every ugly piece of who I am. Every fear. Every weakness." His eyes held hers. "And a love so complete you'll never have reason to run again." Zara's answer was another kiss. This one felt like forever. But Zara had one more test. 3 days later, Taehyuk woke to find her gone. No note. No explanation. Just an empty bed and silence. The panic that seized him was primal, the same terror he'd felt 5 years ago, multiplied by everything he now stood to lose. He tore through the estate searching for her, his men scrambling to track any departures. Then Dae-young appeared in the doorway of his study. "Appa." The boy held out an envelope. "Iyama said to give you this when you woke up." Taehyuk's hands shook as he opened it. Inside, Zara's handwriting. Asterisk, "Meet me where we first met. Come alone. It's time to close the circle." Asterisk. The art gallery in Gangnam had been renovated since they'd met there 7 years ago. But the corner where he'd first seen her, standing before a painting of the African savanna at sunset, remained unchanged. She was there now, wearing the same white dress she'd worn that day. Her grandmother's ring glinted on her finger. Taehyuk approached slowly, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. "You terrified me." His voice was rough. "Do you know that? I thought. I needed you to feel it." She turned to face him. "What I felt that night. When I walked through that door and saw my world collapse. I needed you to understand why I ran." "I understand." He stopped before her. "I'll understand it every day for the rest of my life if that's what it takes." "Good." She reached into her bag and pulled out 2 items. His wedding ring, the one he'd given her that matched her grandmother's band. And a stack of photographs. "These are everything you missed." Her voice softened. The twins' first steps. Their first words. Every birthday. Every fever. Every nightmare. She pressed the photos into his hands. I want you to have them. Because those years are over. And we don't look backward anymore. His eyes burned. Zara. Marry me again. She took his face in her hands. Here. In the place we began. Let this be our real beginning. He kissed her instead of answering. It was the only response either of them needed. 6 months later, Kwon Tae-hyuk called a press conference that shocked Seoul. Every major news outlet attended. Business leaders. Politicians. Underworld figures who appeared as anonymous associates. He stood before them all with Zara at his side, her hand in his. The twins stood before them, dressed in matching suits, their faces bearing the unmistakable mark of Kwon heritage. 4 years, Tae-hyuk began, I have been known as many things. Chairman. Criminal. Dragon. His gaze swept the room. But today, I claim the only titles that matter. His hand tightened around Zara's. Husband. To the woman who saw light in my darkness when I deserved none. He looked down at his sons. Father. To the boys who have shown me that legacy isn't built with empires, it's built with love. The room was silent. This is my family. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. They are under my protection. They carry my name. And anyone who threatens them will discover exactly why the Black Dragon of Seoul has never been defeated. He turned to Zara, his voice softening for her alone. This time, no silence will ever separate us again. The bakery remained. Tae-hyuk had offered to build her a chain of locations, a culinary empire, anything she desired. Zara had refused. This is where I found myself, she said simply. This is where our sons learned to walk. This is home. So the bakery stayed, now with subtle security measures hidden behind the cheerful facade. The twins attended school nearby. Zara still made her fusion pastries every morning. And Kwon Tae-hyuk, the most feared man in Seoul, could be found there every evening, sitting at a corner table, watching his wife work. Sometimes the twins would climb onto his lap, asking questions about the tattoo on his wrist, the ships in the harbor, the stars above Seoul. He answered them all. No more secrets. One evening, as the bakery closed and the city lights flickered to life beyond the windows, Dae-young looked up at his father with those familiar dark eyes. Appa. Yes. Are you happy now? Tae-hyuk looked at his sons. At his wife, who smiled at him from behind the counter with flour on her cheek. At the family he had almost lost. At the second chance he never deserved but would spend every remaining breath honoring. Yes. His voice was thick. For the first time in my life. Yes. Zara crossed the room and kissed his forehead, her touch gentle. Then let's go home, my love. The twins grabbed his hands. And Kwon Tae-hyuk, the Black Dragon of Seoul, ruler of empires, destroyer of enemies, let himself be led into the night by the only people who had ever truly conquered him. His family. His forever. His home. Thank you for experiencing this story with us. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Until next time, may you find your way home.